Hey guys, it's Ryan and Allie from the Lab Family. This is going to be episode 5. We want to thank you for joining us. If this is your first time with us, we want to welcome you. Episodes 1 through 4 will be linked down below if you've missed those as well. They'll be flipping up in cards during the whole video. We left off episode number 4 with being discharged from Cincinnati Children's Hospital after Kennedy's second transplant. The first one had failed, and the second one was successful after some heartache and some heartbreak and some depressing moments, but God came through and God prevailed, and Kennedy's transplant succeeded, and we were able to discharge from the hospital on August 31st.
August 31st of 2015, and that was day plus 62 of her second transplant, and that was after being in the hospital for 111 consecutive days. So we were discharged, and once we were discharged, we still had to stay in Cincinnati. We had to be within 20 miles of the hospital. Kennedy still had central lines, and we were still given some of her medicine through her central lines, cyclosporin and immunosuppressant being one of them. And that's one of the reasons why she's very hairy in the pictures that you see. Cyclosporin is an immunosuppressant, like I said, and it makes the kids really hairy. Some of them almost werewolf-like, and so it makes dressing changes painful, and it just makes people stare a little bit more. So once we discharged, we still had to be extremely careful. Life was still not normal. It was just a little bit more comfortable. We got to sleep in nice comfy beds, and we didn't have to hear all the beeping, and we had a little bit more privacy. We got to be a family and sort of have our own rules, even though we had a lot of their rules.
Initially we had to still go to the hospital, like, 3 or 4 appointments a week initially?
I don't know what it was initially, but it pretty quickly turned into 2 appointments a week. But we still had dressing change every week, so home care came to our apartment every week. And then on top of that, we had therapy. So she had speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. We quickly dropped off occupational therapy because our insurance would only pay for 20 therapy visits a year. I think it was a year. And so until we could get moved home, we just had to take what insurance would pay for. And so we dropped occupational so that Kendi could do physical therapy. At this point, Kendi is over a year old. Her birthday was in June. She is not crawling. She's not walking. She actually would not put any weight on one of her legs. So once we got to the apartment, it was really important to keep doing physical therapy and try to get Kendi as strong as possible.
And during this time, I was traveling back and forth working my job. About every 3 to 4 days, I'd travel back to Tennessee, and unfortunately, Kennedy and Allie would be in Cincinnati all by themselves and having to run to and from the hospital. But it was a lot of trips.
With Kennedy, I was really blessed, really, with a lot of help. My mom and my sister and Ryan's mom, they all tried to, if they knew Ryan was going to be home, they would try to come up and help. So we did have a lot of visitors, even though we still had to be extra careful and be diligent on people washing their hands. As much as things you wouldn't even think of, we really were supposed to use paper towels for everything because dishcloths carry bacteria. Bottled water. Even though Kendi was trying new foods, we had to be careful to limit fresh fruit, to not eating off any type of buffet, just making sure our food was properly handled and cared for. She couldn't have any kind of ice cream, soft served ice cream out of a machine. She couldn't have any drinks out of a soda fountain.
Or deli meat.
We couldn't vacuum in our apartment. So there was a lot of restrictions for a bone marrow patient that we didn't know about but had to learn about and be aware of. No burning candles. The list was long. And like I said, we felt more normal, but when we went out, we weren't really supposed to be going out, but being in Ohio, people didn't really know us, so we didn't have people coming up to us. But we got those stares, not only because our daughter had a feeding tube and she was hairy, but we would bring her out of a covered stroller. It would be covered and she would be zipped in there, and then once we got her out, we would wipe everything down, and you could tell some of those people were just like oh, just don't worry about those germs, or, it must be their first child. Look at the germaphobes. But it really paid off for us. Kennedy, once she was discharged, we never went back inpatient with her. And that is actually rare for a bone marrow patient. Sometimes you get readmitted a couple of times for fevers or little twerks or improvements that need to be done. Even though we were only going to the hospital and we weren't inpatient, some of the hospital stays were very long, the clinic appointments, day hospital, because Kennedy still needed pentamidine, she still needed IVIG, she still needed enzyme replacement therapy. So enzyme replacement therapy alone was 5 to 6 hours. Pentamidine was a pneumonia preventative, and IVIG was...
Just nutrition, wasn't it?
No. I'm not sure what IVIG was. I think it just helps with your immune system as your immune system's trying to come back. A lot happened during that time. Like I said, we did have a few more visitors and got out a little bit more. Ryan's brother lives next door to us, so we're close with our nieces, and our niece Harper is very motherly. At this time, she was 6 years old, and she still was motherly and loved Kennedy so much. So she was the best physical therapy we could ever ask for when she came up. She was really good, but she sort of threw her around like a rag doll, but it was good for Kennedy. It made her strong, and
she wanted to do everything that Harper was doing and Maddie was doing, and Maddie's our older niece, and Kennedy loved Maddie and Harper, and like Allie said, they lived next door, so they were used to coming down, or we were taking Kennedy up to see them and almost seeing them on a daily basis. So whenever we moved to Cincinnati for Kennedy's transplant, because they were so young, they were not allowed to come to the hospital and visit Kennedy. So they had been apart, whenever they were, before we moved to Cincinnati, they were inseparable. And then whenever we moved to Cincinnati to start Kennedy's transplant process, they had been apart for
almost 4 months.
Yeah, and so they finally came to visit, and Kennedy and Harper and Maddie and just everybody was so ecstatic to see everybody and get to spend that family time together, and just they had a blast. I mean, they, as you can see from the pictures, Harper just took right back up to her, and Kennedy was so excited to see her and Maddie, and just had a lot of fun with them.
An important part of our journey during this time was Kennedy was not gaining weight. She was still on a feeding tube. We weren't doing TPN, which is nutrition through IV. So Kennedy was having a really hard time at gaining weight, and actually at times she was losing weight. Once you go through a bone marrow transplant, it's really hard to get your taste buds back. It's really hard to eat again, pretty much. Some have sensory issues. So Kennedy was not eating hardly anything. She was getting most of her nutrition through an NG tube. And so we worked daily on this.
That was breast milk through that NG tube too, so it wasn't very heavy on the stomach.
Some of it was fortified. They talked me into fortifying some of it. We were trying all different kinds of baby foods. We would go through tons and tons of baby food a day just to try to get her to eat. And in the end, it paid off, but it started with when Kennedy and Harper and Matt and Leslie, Linda, came up to visit. We went to the Children's Museum, and while we were there, an incident happened, and Ryan can tell his side of the story.
So basically, I got the Dad of the Year award. Unfortunately, my wife is one of the best pack rats in the world, but she packs everything, and you've got the kitchen sink there to wash your hands if you need to, so she packs everything. So like she said, Kennedy was in an enclosed stroller, which is it's a stroller made out of one of the carriers that you would pull behind a bicycle, so it's enclosed. And so Allie had everything in there with Kennedy, and her NG tube just went in her nose, and it was taped to her face, and that was the only place it was secured. It wasn't secured anywhere in the body. It was secured by tape on her on her cheek, and then it would hang back, and we had a little piece of tape on her back, so that way she wasn't really full with it, and then it would just hang out. It had a cap on it that we closed off whenever we wasn't providing her feeds through that. So Kennedy's in the stroller, and I believe she starts to cry, or every time that Kennedy would almost get sick, vomit, she would have this distinct cough. And as soon as you heard it, you knew she was about to puke. So I don't remember if it was that cough that she gave that made me react like it was, or she was crying, just wanting out, or if Daddy just wanted to hold his baby girl. I don't really remember what it was. But anyways, long story short, I reach in the stroller, and on top of everything else, that tape on her face was notorious for the oils of the skin just kind of getting under it and letting it peel back a little bit. So I think it was barely secured on her cheek. But anyhow, I reach in, I grab her, I pick her up, and whenever I do, I don't even realize it. I'm just pulling with force, pull her out, and unfortunately her tube had got under all the stuff that somebody had packed in her stroller with her.
Supposedly.
And as soon as I picked her up, it yanked the tape off her back, it yanked the tape off her cheek, and it pulled it completely out. And during our stay in the hospital, putting the NG tube back in was just almost every time was a traumatizing experience. Sometimes it wouldn't go in correctly, sometimes it'd come out the mouth, sometimes it'd just cool up and come right back. I mean, it was just awful. And so Dad of the Year right here felt absolutely terrible that I was, first of all, that I'd just ripped tape off my child's cheek, and now she was screaming louder than ever and crying, but also the fact that what she was about to have to go through because of my stupid actions and not thinking. But it ended up being an absolute blessing in the end that Allie called and asked if we could just leave it out and see if she would eat more. And luckily we had a really good relationship with our care team, and they trusted us. They said, if she's not eating, bring her in and we'll reinsert the tube. And from that point on, I mean, she was
They gave us 3 days. The agreement was, because the nurse practitioner said no, we had to bring her in immediately. But Dr. Wallace, a lot of people know Dr. Wallace, we love, and he's well seasoned. He said he would give us 3 days, but we had to call every 24 hours and report all of her intake. And if she was still intaking, then we would check her weight and see if we could leave the NG tube out. And then if she was losing weight or it wasn't good, then we would put it back in. But like Ryan said, it was a blessing because we'd had this NG tube for a long time now. Didn't know when we would be getting it out, but Kennedy ate baby food that day, and she ate a little bit more each day, and from that day on, she's never had an NG tube again.
Yeah, it was, I got Dad of the Year for putting my daughter through torture, but in the end, God showed up and showed out, and because he knew exactly what needed to happen. So unfortunately I did a bad thing, but it turned out to be a good thing. So I got an X mark, but I also got a good check mark on that one as well.
So that visit was good. It was hard for the girls to say goodbye because it'd been so long since they'd seen her, and they had to come back and get back in school. So it was a fun trip. It was a trip to remember, and
Yep.
and it made us miss home. At this point, it's probably well close to 150 days. I think, yeah, probably close to 150 days that I had not been to Tennessee. I had not been home. I love Cincinnati in some ways, but I missed home too. Our dog was home, our family and friends. Even though the community continued to rally for us, during this time I can remember getting letters from Kingston Elementary School. I don't remember if it was, I think it was the whole 5th grade had written letters to Kendi, and they were the sweetest letters. I took pictures of some of them. And also when we got out, before Kendi's NG tube came out, our photographer that had been with us from the beginning drove to Cincinnati and took Kendi's 1 year pictures. We were a few months late, but she came up and took Kendi's 1 year pictures so we could document them, and we are forever grateful for her and everything that she did for our family and driving to Cincinnati. I use those pictures a lot to compare for Kendi's progress. There was still a lot Kendi was going through at this time. Even though we were out, she had been given a back brace to help with her kyphosis. She had been given I call it a frog brace, that she wore at night because she had hip dysplasia.
I think it was called a hip abduction brace, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, she looked like a frog just laying in it. As you can see from the pictures,
And surprisingly, the back brace did not go over so well. But the frog brace, she tolerated very well. She wore it at night. I don't remember her ever really fighting for it. And I was surprised because she slept on her stomach, and I would lay her down in that frog brace on her back, but some nights she would still end up, I don't know how, on her stomach in that frog brace.
So a quick note right back to our photographer coming up to Cincinnati. I just want to say thank you to everyone who chipped in and done fundraising, put us on the prayer list at church, and just absolutely everything that everybody did, the phone calls, the prayers, the letters sent to us. Just we were unbelievably blessed by our community. And a lot of people say they don't want to be from a small town, but we're very, very blessed to be from a small town, and we would love to sit here and tell everybody and name them name by name, and the event that they did and the fundraising they did, and so on and so forth. But we knew that we would absolutely leave somebody out, and
for sure.
And so we just want to put that blanket out there and just say thank you for blessing us, for taking care of us, for praying for us, for just being there and doing what you did. We just want to say thank you, and God bless each and every one of you. So
it was a huge impact. It was a huge impact on my life, to be an introvert and to be so quiet and to see these people reach out to us, people that we didn't know, complete strangers that found our story. One of them found our story, and she happened to be from Harriman, and they ended up being good friends, and we stayed at their house a lot, the Schroeders, and they found us through you sharing on Facebook. So shares really mean a lot.
I think we actually had a comment or a letter or something probably from one of every of the 50 states in the U.S. It was just it was unbelievable how many lives that Kennedy's story and Kennedy had touched, and it was a true blessing for sure.
We knew from things like that Kennedy was going to make an impact, and we didn't know what our purpose was, but we knew that it was something she had given us. It was a trial, but she had given us a bigger purpose, and we knew we were meant to be her parents. So with all that said, we really missed home. We were anxious to get home, and finally we made a sneak visit for Thanksgiving that year. It was Thanksgiving of 2015. So we left in May of 2015, and our first visit was Thanksgiving of 2015. We didn't tell anybody because Kennedy could have absolutely no visitors. It was high risk because she still had her central line, so the risk of infection is high. If she was to have gotten a fever, they would have flown us back to Cincinnati. It was flu season, so it was immediate family, and the trip, I think we were supposed to be home 5 days, and it went so good. We called. We were supposed to be back in Cincinnati on a Tuesday, and they let us stay until Thursday, and it was really hard to pack up and leave and go back up there not knowing when we were going to get to come home again.
We just wanted to hold her captive here and spend time here at home, that was for sure.
Yeah.
And it snowed, and I think Kennedy actually got to sled a couple times during that as well, I think.
I don't know.
Looking back on pictures, I think I remember that. I don't know.
Denmark Christmas. I think we got to come back home for Christmas, but the 24th was our first time home. I think that was
November 24th.
Yeah.
Okay. November 24th.
I'd have to go back and look. I think that was day plus 100. 157. No, that's when her lines were out. So
Give or take.
yeah. So after that puts us close to that. So once we got back from our trip to Tennessee, Kendi was doing so good, and we got to schedule a date to have her central lines removed, and that is a really big deal. Most patients have this done at around day plus 100, and where Kennedy's first engraftment had failed and she was having a hard time gaining weight, our time in Cincinnati and our close watch was just longer than everyone else. So finally at day plus 157, which was on December 4th of 2015, Kendi had her central lines removed. And that was a big deal. That was our next step to being free, our next step to being home. It gave us more freedom. So when Kendi had her central lines, they had to be flushed every day. If we were given meds to her central lines, that added an extra hour of maintenance each day. So it was a big deal to have the central lines removed and not have to worry as much. If she got a fever, she could, we wouldn't have to go straight to the hospital necessarily. So it gave us a lot more freedom. And it was, I would say, I don't know if it's the last step before moving home, but once
It was a big step in towards
yeah.
moving home. I don't remember what it was. So she had the surgery, and then they took her into the it's not a room. It's basically a huge area where multiple patients are recovering, waking up from their anesthesia and stuff. But they came and got Allie and I out of the waiting room and took us back. And as we're walking back, do you remember what she said? I don't remember. You remember it had the whole, like, almost every nurse that was with another patient in that whole recovery area close to Kennedy. She said something like, I don't know if she heard us walking down the hall. She said, "Hey, mama," or you remember she said something funny. It was, I don't know, it was hilarious, but everybody was cracking up. And of course, her being so cute and so cuddly, the nurses loved her. And yeah, but as soon as, I can't remember what it was, as soon as we walked back there, she absolutely said something funny. We'll have to look that up. I'm sure that's in the post. But everybody was cracking up, and but yeah, that was a huge step to get those central lines out, and a big relief, and just good overall to be able to come home, or be able to move closer to coming home.
Yep. And there's a lot of pictures that we don't post in these videos, but you can go to Facebook and you can go to Kendi and Lincoln Ladd's prayer group, and it's basically Kendi's whole journey. Our son, who also has MPS 1, got the second child syndrome, and his story isn't as updated or doesn't have as much as Kendi's, but there's a lot of pictures that you can go back and see how far Kendi's come. And we will try to post really soon, or maybe on this video, just a comparison, and hopefully introduce you to Kendi soon. She's made great strides. She still has a lot of struggles from MPS 1. So really, every time you share this video, every time you share one of our videos, you're getting us one step closer to a cure. Rare disease is hard. Orphan disease is hard, and we need awareness. We need a cure. Our kids' MPS is a terminal illness, and so there's so many things you can do. Sharing the video, signing up to be a bone marrow donor, donating through PayPal, going to our website, telling anybody about Hurler, wearing purple, putting MPS Awareness Day on your calendar. There's tons of things you can do. So we just thank you guys so much for following. We thank you for sharing. We thank you for being interested. And as always, we do welcome your likes. We welcome your constructive criticism. We welcome your feedback. We love to hear what you learned, what you hated. One of the biggest things people keep asking me is, well, a few people have been brave enough to ask me, is why I don't smile in the videos. It is really hard to sit here and know what to do with yourself when you're recording these, and it's always extremely late for us.
And we're brand new to YouTube. I mean, we're doing these videos. We don't have any video production background. We barely even can take pictures on our iPhones, and so all of it's brand new to us.
So the answer why I don't smile is I don't realize it sometimes. But number two, as of right now, It is about 2 o'clock in the morning, so I've been through my whole day. I've been up since 8 o'clock this morning. I've laid down with Lincoln. I've got back up, and it's just hard to be happy and know what to do with yourself at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I am happy. We did not have a big fight before this video. I love my husband, and so it's just,
She's a Grinch.
that's the way it portrays that I'm unhappy, but I'm not unhappy. It's just hard to know what to do. So I'm going to try to do better. I hope I smiled better in this video. And I feel like there's another question people ask.
I want to ask that you do comment below if on any constructive criticism. We want to hear from our Hurler friends, and also we have a vision ahead for some more videos to hopefully branch out and interview some of our Hurler friends to kind of just put our stories together and just chit chat and whatever we can come of that with those videos. So if you are welcome to that and you feel like that you may be interested in doing that, just comment below or send us a private message and let us know that you're interested in that. We'll try to make arrangements and speak with you and see what we can do. I know there's a lot of you out there that we do know, but I'm sure there's a lot out there that we don't know. So any tips, tricks that you may have or anything, just put those comments below. And anything that you'd like to see in the videos, more pictures, more videos, less of Allie looking mean and mad and not smiling, comment that below as well. Yeah, we welcome any comments, likes, dislikes, and constructive criticism for sure. And also be sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell below to get notifications whenever we post a new video. And we thank you for following along. And again, if this is your first time watching these videos, episodes 1 through 4 will be linked down below, as well as some more information about Kennedy and a little teaser for the videos upcoming. Kennedy's little brother Lincoln and his journey that's going to be coming up in future episodes. So once again, we want to thank you. And we love each and every one of you, and just want to say God bless each and every one of you. We thank you so much.
Thanks.
Smile. Be sure you smile.
Thank you, guys.